Good morning, friends. It is week 7 in the NFL. We are halfway through our fantasy regular season, and everybody's hurt. Everybody's on bye. It's a complete and utter clusterfuck. And that's what we're here to talk about. Normally, at this point, I would introduce Dan and let him say hi, but nobody cares that Dan is here because the man, the myth, the legend, our show is down one viewer this morning because he is on the show with us. Nate, welcome to the show, buddy. It's been a long time. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Should I put on a really thick Aussie accent just so everyone knows where
That's
I'm
the only
from?
reason you're even here is we have a bunch of people who just want to hear you talk this entire time. They probably want me and Dan to go backstage and just let you talk. So.
Unfortunately, I don't sound as Aussie as some. Like I've been traveling in America and all that, and groups of Aussies come in, and people look at me like, "Why don't you sound like them?" So, but to most people, I still sound very Australian.
I was going to say, man, perception is reality because to me and Dan, you sound Australian as fuck.
Well, that's good. So you set the tone that we can drop the occasional F. That's good to know.
Oh, certainly. Yes.
I've been in somewhere very faux pas. I'm Aussie, like I can control the C's, but the F's, they can just pop out occasionally. So
you can throw them right at us, especially directed at Dan. Dan, how are you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm great. It's game day. TIG.
ERS. I can't leave you hanging on that. I even rocked the orange shirt today, though it's a part-time ninja shirt. I see what you're wearing. Nate, to clue you in, what is it? I would say 80% of the league grew up in a town in Ohio called Massillon. Very, very big in high school football. We are playing our crosstown rival this week, Canton, and 2 members of the league are supporting that team, and namely one of the guys that Dan brought into the league, Phil. So it's become a battle in the group chat as well. So.
Yeah, it's a funny thing in Australian, like my sport, rugby league and all that. It'll be like your crosstown rivals or your in-state rivals. As soon as you're eliminated from the finals or contention, whatever, people say, "Oh, we'll support the other one and all that." And I tell them in America, no, that's your mortal enemy. Yeah. Like I want them to die. I want them to just be gone. As soon as I'm out, I want them out too. So yeah, I don't get that whole cheering for your neighbor. No.
Well, we don't have to worry about that because Canton can't get past the second round of the playoffs. So
they're toast. Years after I finished high school, I was a manager at Blockbuster Video to age myself, and I needed to hire somebody, and I got an application in, and I'm skimming it, and the first thing I saw was that he went to high school at Canton McKinley, and I threw the application in the trash. I'm not going to hire some Canton McKinley guy to come work for me. This wasn't even in the town I lived in anymore. Like this was miles away, and I'm like, no, sorry, can't do it, buddy. You're not coming to work for me.
All right. I never really understood American high school sports until I went to a basketball game in Indiana of a high school. And it was 8,000 people in a stadium, and we were late. So we were listening to it on the radio on the drive in. Yep. And that's when I'm just like, this is high school. Like people talk about Australia being the sporting place and all that. When you see things like that, you're like, yeah, we're
our high school football team brings in about 20,000 pretty regularly. So it's crazy. Normally, I would get into 3 things about last week, and we are going to talk trades, but I don't want to talk about last week because that would have required sending Drifter way too many screenshots. So I want to talk about you a little bit, Nate. And so the first thing I wanted to ask you, and we talked about this a little bit for the show, is who is your favorite NFL team?
Oh, like I was talking to you just before. I can remove this here and then remove all out. Let's go Buffalo.
There you go.
I was a season ticket holder as well at one stage, so I had tickets to the Rock Bowl for a number of years. I only got to a few games before I had to get back home, unfortunately, but I kept my tickets for a few years, hoping to get back over there. But I was a San Diego Chargers fan before that. And then, the next season rolled around and I realized, I'm Buffalo. I'm one of those poor Buffalo Bills fans that have never seen, the shiny side of a Super Bowl trophy, but one day.
Now, so I gotta be honest, when you put that hat on,
these guys.
I thought for sure that was a Denver Bronco hat with those colors. Okay, I see it now, but when you first brought it up, I thought that was like an old school Denver Broncos hat.
Yeah, it does look a little bit like that logo. So
I've got a number of them up there and all. I've even got my season ticket holder one somewhere around the place. But
so, did you live in Buffalo then?
I lived in Toronto. So
and you had mentioned you've been to Canadian football. Yeah, absolutely. So
this guy's worldly.
I was gonna say I'm up in Albany now, about 6 hours away from there, from Toronto, 4 from Buffalo. So,
Okay.
And then my next question is, how long have you been playing fantasy football? So obviously you were North America side for a little bit. Is that where fantasy football came in, or?
No, it was actually fantasy basketball first for me, and that was on ESPN back in 1998. Is
Oh
when I first
wow!
got into fantasy, and then it was around the 2008, 2009, after I'd been to America the first time, that I sort of got introduced more to football, and slowly it took over. And I've only now, last season, I had my first basketball team in about 10 years. So
Okay.
football took over for a long time. So yeah, I did, but because I started collecting basketball cards again, so I thought, oh, I know the names a little bit more and all that, so I'll give it a go. And I was 2 points down heading into the final day, and I won it by 0.5.
That's awesome. Yeah, Dan will tell you, I was never very good at fantasy basketball or fantasy baseball, so I've just devoted all my efforts to not being good at fantasy football either, but at least I can talk about it.
I will say that first fantasy baseball league we did was by far my favorite fantasy league we've ever done. There's me,
Speaking
you,
of which,
Rob, and
it was a bunch of Canadians, right?
Yeah.
I think I tried baseball one season, and yeah, when you don't really know the names and all that, it's like, no, this is.
For me, it was just I like one game a week. Like everything just makes more sense for me in football. It's so much easier to try.
Ryan's really a simple guy.
I think that's the damn truth. All right. League, Nate, there were only 2 trades last week. One of, I would argue, no consequence, though I find it interesting. I'm going to try to refer to everybody as team names, Nate. If I slip up, just let me know you don't know what team I'm talking about. But Taylor, Contenders or Pretenders, acquired David Njoku for a 6th-round pick. So he sent a 6th-round pick to Waiver Danger to acquire David Njoku. A lot of Browns fans in our league. We are from Northeast Ohio. And I don't know that I'm paying a 6th-round pick when I can just go get a tight end off of waivers right
now. And he's in 12th place looking at my thing here. So why is he still hopeful of getting somewhere to be trading draft picks for a mid-tier? I know it's a 14-team league, so Njoku's actually a little, because I'm used to 12 teams and 10 on ESPN, but still, like, he is down there and all that. But I guess
he won the championship last year, and he is the guy who traded his entire draft away for Justin Jefferson. And so he is just trying to get into the playoffs, to make the playoffs, having not drafted any players.
He'll find a way. Don't worry. He'll find a way into these playoffs.
Which I've got to tell you just quickly, like, I really get into this. I'm very passionate. In my league, I've done 23 trades so far this year. The next highest is 3, and they're all to me. Like, every trade was with me. So when I heard about one guy trading, not just half, if he would have traded the lower half of his draft for the higher end, he just went the whole draft. I was like, that's the type of league I want to get in, for crazy.
We're going to get you in. Someone is going to quit. You are the next man up. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then my partner here went out. Dan is an enormous Bengals fan, and traded his 1st-round pick next year for Joe Burrow and a 6th-round pick back. The team that traded him Joe Burrow just recently acquired Joe Burrow. That would be, I forget Kenny's team name. Thrill of the Chase traded him Joe Burrow to acquire a 1st-round pick. So I immediately busted Dan's balls and said, when you have a chance to buy the QB 22, you pounce on that. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's interesting. That like, Dan, do you think that we're going to see old Joe back after this bye week?
I mean, obviously, I bought with the hope of that's what's going to happen. But here's the you have to understand. I've had multiple weeks this season where I have negative points for my quarterback position. I'm currently in 4th place. I'm not winning anything with my quarterback situation the way it is. I have Jordan Love. I already cut Daniel Jones. And Jordan Love in our league, has scored fewer points every single week. Every week, he just drops down, down, down. He's at negative now. I can't imagine what his negative is going to be this week. But
this is great to know when this week I have Justin Fields and Joe Burrow. So I had to pick up off the waiver wire Jordan Love.
He has literally scored fewer points every week. So hopefully this week should bounce back up a little bit. It's hard to get worse when you're already in the negative.
I am so in on Jordan Love this week.
He should have a great week.
I say
Denver.
Come on.
When I was doing my Fantasy Pros ranking, I think I ended up putting him in as quarterback 3. So I'm very high.
Very well could be that way, but I don't trust him throughout the rest of the season.
I just need him for one game. Just one game.
I did the same thing last week. I needed Derek Carr for one game last week. He got me 15 points. I was very thankful to him for those points. Yes, I'm hopeful Joe Burrow gets back to being Joe Burrow. I don't believe Joe Burrow forgot how to play NFL quarterback. But I don't have a lot of options. And we talk all the time. It's not really a first-round pick. It's a fourth-round pick. While I do love the first-round picks, I collect them as many as I can. I had 4 of them last year. But to me, it was worth it to pay for Joe Burrow. I mean, look what he paid to get Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. He paid, I don't remember, a ton. Tua was involved. A bunch of other players in draft picks. But
that was not the Tua trade. He paid to get Burrow, Russell Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Jamison Williams, Breece Hall, Devon Shane, and Anthony Richardson.
Okay. He paid all that to get Burrow and Chase. All I had to do was give up a first-round pick to get Burrow.
And then Richardson gets cut, and he re-signs Anthony Richardson, which I found interesting.
Here, let me open the curtains on this. So I was hoping to get Anthony Richardson and put him on my IR and as someone who I could maybe potentially keep for next year. And then he put Joe Burrow on the trade block. So I sent him an offer. He doesn't respond for a couple of days. I'm like, well, I guess he's not going to accept that trade. He's just going to let it sit there. And then he texts me out of nowhere.
I hate that. Anti-trade people. Yeah. That little red dot on the tab, you can see it.
Well, he sent me a message. He's like, hey, I'm probably going to accept this if my waiver wire goes through. I'm like, who's on waiver wire still? And I had to go back through and I saw his Richardson. I was like, okay, I see what he's trying to do here.
So you cancel your Richardson claim.
I canceled my Richardson, which he was going to get him before me. He was far. Okay. I was toward the bottom. But I was like, well, I'm not getting that. So I just canceled that. And I'm sitting there. I broke down. I went through. He was 5th. I went through all the top 4 teams, like looking at their rosters if they have room to put someone IR or not, just to see if I was even going to get to go through. So as soon as I saw Richardson go through, I knew that trade was coming. So
that's awesome.
I was pretty excited about it. No, I like the chance I'm taking. I think it makes my team better. I can't be getting negative points. I'm in 4th place. I have a chance this year. Happy to do it. I know other option. I know Taylor wants to trade one of his quarterbacks, but with Fields hurt, I'm sure the price of Tua has gone up.
That's what I was going to throw out. Taylor has
his week 15, 16, and 17 matchups for the playoffs in ours are crazy. He has like Jets, Dallas, and some other really good defense. I can't remember the third one, but that's not who I want Tua playing in the playoffs as my quarterback.
Yeah, Taylor, Contenders Pretenders has Fields and Tua. Was definitely shopping Tua until the Fields thumb injury, Nate. So, and based on what you followed so far, Nate, they're saying it's going to be a grip issue for Justin Fields. Do you expect him back sooner than later?
No idea. Like this is like I was saying with bye weeks and all that. This is the one week where I definitely needed him because I've got Burrow, and then for that injury to happen, it cost me a win last week. I needed Pollard to score. I needed Pollard to score 21. Which don't get me started on I've forgotten his name. I remembered it earlier. The Philadelphia kicker, him missing that field goal that cost me 4 points. So if he got that, I would have won. But so it was just a very frustrating week with Fields going down as well. So
I was watching
after this week, I like Fields will be a spot starter for me because I'm hoping that Burrow will be my every week guy, and then occasionally if it's one of those crazy matchups where I think Fields will go, crazy like he can do. That's at the start of this year, he was one that I wanted to get. I had to trade for him eventually. He is one that he can score 5 points or he can score 50.
Exactly.
And like his floor and his ceiling are just so wide apart.
That's why Contenders or Pretenders got him. You and Taylor, because you mentioned you love seeing that he does the trades. Taylor was the one who did the trade for Justin. You and him seem to have a very similar philosophy. And what I will say is Taylor makes this league amazing. So getting you in, I think, is going to make this league very, very fun.
Basically, Elliott's the only player that I drafted that's on my team.
There you go.
Everyone made fun of that when I made my last trade. They're like, wait a sec, it's only your kicker. And I'm not going to I don't keep kickers through buys. That's not going to happen. So come week 10, people are like, oh, but he's the number one kicker and all that. In our scoring, there's like 2 that are within 4 points of him that are free agents. So yes, he's number 1 currently, but.
Well, I just did the same. I have Brandon Aubrey from the Cowboys, who is number 2 in our league. And I'm like, nope, he's gone. I went and signed some bad running back, Zach Evans from the Rams. And I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen with everybody because I'm going to also have to get Deontay Johnson off of IR, I think, on Sunday. So My team's a mess, plain and simple.
Love to see it.
Yeah, I don't love to see it. All right, let's talk week 7. Last week I went 4-3, putting me at 23-19 on the season. Dan, I still have not went and counted your record yet, but you went 3-4 last week. Quite a come down from 6-1. How's that make you feel?
I really rhined up last week.
You're a bastard. All right, I have ordered these matchups, and Nate, I'll come to you second. I'll let Dan talk first, so that way you have time to find your notes, since you're way behind the 8 ball here. So I've ordered these in order of importance.
I have notes.
Yeah, so I'm going to go contender pretender with 2 wins, taking on behind the 8 ball with 1 win. What do you got here, Dan?
I think Taylor wins this matchup just on his running backs alone versus the other team's running backs. I don't think it's a close game. We have a couple of games I think are going to be blowouts this week.
I agree. Not just on that matchup. I agree that there's going to be a couple of games that are blowouts this week.
What are the teams we're looking at? Sorry, I've got them in order, but none of the.
Oh, you're fine. That's why I wanted to give you time. So this one is contender or pretender versus behind the 8 ball.
Oh, geez, what the hell have I done? I'll get that done.
Take your time. I'll talk while you're looking. So I need what I noted was Taylor needs Tua to be Tua to blow this game out, but I also have him winning every position as well. Derek Carr had a pretty decent game on Thursday, scoring 15 fantasy points, but the running backs for Taylor, I don't really love Najee Harris. Jonathan Taylor hopefully comes alive, but they're still going to be better than Deontay Foreman and Salvon Ahmed. But then the wide receiver thing, 11 points out of Michael Thomas, whereas 5 points out of Rashid Shaheed. And then Taylor still has Kupp and Mike Evans to go versus Gabe Davis and DK Metcalf. I think this is a pretty easy win for Taylor. 12 points out of the Jacksonville defense. That touchdown really saved him there too. So I also have contender or pretender winning this matchup, Nate.
Yeah, it definitely looks like contender or pretender to me. Najee is one that I had because I've got Pollard and I had Henry, but I moved him this week. So my running back 2 position was looking a little bit dubious this week, and I was going to have to play Najee, which you think at the start of the season, oh no, I have to play Najee Harris.
Yeah, you would have never thought that was going to be a phrase you had to utter.
But I made a move, and I'm going to get Pacheco in the next day or 2. So I got Pacheco coming in. So my bye week.
I love that. I love that you're just making trades to fix bye weeks and to avoid Najee Harris. I'm in a dynasty league with a bunch of people I wrote with at the very first website I wrote with. And the guy put on the group chat yesterday, I'm taking the best offer for Najee Harris I have tomorrow morning. So he doesn't even care what the offer is. Whichever the best offer is, he's accepting it this morning.
On my team, you put the nicknames below the players and all that. Yeah. I should put in case of emergency for Najee. He's someone I only want to play if I'm desperate. Yeah,
he's definitely inferior to Jaylen Warren. At least it looks that way right now. So we all agree contenders or pretenders. Taylor taking the win there. The next 2 games are really because you have very good teams playing very bad teams. So I am going to start with So Good It Hurts taking on Thrill of the Chase. Darren, So Good It Hurts, is undefeated, 6-0. And I was looking because I keep track of our longest active winning streak. And I was like, well, Darren's clearly at 6 games right now, but did he win last year? But I forgot, Dan. Last year, Darren lost every game in the losers bracket. So he is definitely on a firm 6-game winning streak, is the highest active winning streak. And as I mentioned before, I wasn't sure if Kenny was mailing it in. I think the Joe Burrow trade kind of solidifies that. He's sitting at 2 wins right now. Dan, what do you got here?
Yeah, I agree. He's mailing it at this point. He's pretty much picked up his keepers with his IR move and picking up Beckham and with Jamar. I figured this would be the first game you talked about. I think this is going to be one of those blowouts.
I went second with this one because there's minor playoff implications. If Kenny were to win this game and Darren were to lose, it makes things interesting. It's not going to happen, but
I actually just think this would be interesting if Kenny could beat him and get some of that luck for the because Darren's going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, Rob told me the only reason he wanted to make sure he beat me is because he thinks I'm a playoff team and he needed lottery balls.
Has he looked at the roster?
Yeah, I told him he's an idiot.
No, I think Darren has this game probably wrapped up by 3:30 on Sunday.
Yep. All right, Nate, what do you got here? This is Thrill of the Chase taking on So Good It Hurts.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now and just seeing Tyreek Hill, Kenneth Walker, Swift, Hurts, Christian Kirk already putting up 13.5. Musgrave, and like you got to have some weakness on most teams and all that. But yeah, I can't see that compared to someone starting Elijah Moore without Deshaun Watson. Like, I think that's going to be a massacre.
Yeah, I also agree. I think we're all in agreement on this being a flat out massacre, because I went and did a little research because I think it's going to be the biggest blowout of at least the season, which was 80 points back in week 4. Possibly ever, which is 127.7 is the worst blowout we've ever seen where teams started 2 full rosters. I am calling it out that I think Darren beats the 80-point blowout and takes a run at the record. I think that's what happens here. He wins every position. The closest position might be defense, because the Raiders defense, I am having trouble trusting the Raiders defense. I ranked them very lowly last week and they did very well. Now they get Tyson Bagent and I should probably give them more respect. I'm one of the lowest on Fantasy Pros. I just do not believe in the Raiders defense. I actually love Luke Musgrave, where you mentioned weakness. Denver gives up more points to the tight end than any other team in the league. So I think Luke Musgrave could pop this week, and that's going to be part of, like I said, what I think is going to be the biggest blowout.
Trust Jordan Love people.
Yes, exactly. He's
got Madison. He's got Madison going against San Fran. So even his shining possibility of someone that could go off won't, because he's playing San Fran. So exactly. That's gonna be a bloodbath.
All this Jordan Love is really making me nervous that he's gonna lay an absolute egg.
So Dan, I promise you,
1 week crush. I just got a 1 week crush on the guy. That's all. I just need him to be okay. 15 points would be magical.
I did a DFS show last night, and everybody is so in on Luke Musgrave, Dan. And I was like, I got to go take him out of all of my lineups because this is going to blow up in everybody's face. And I am
that's
nervous.
How it always goes.
Yep. And I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to pivot. And if I'm right, I get to be very happy and say I was right that he blew up. I just won't get to take advantage of it in my DFS lineups.
Oh, making me sick right now.
Yep. All right. Next game, very similar record and matchup. I told JR if he won last week, I was going to look very stupid. He did. So lost in the sauce, sitting at 5 wins, taking on Mr. Steak with just 2 wins. I'll actually get us started on this one. I don't think there's going to be much change from what we've seen this season. Rob's team, when you look at what he did starting off with all of his Jaguars, you would think that I was going to pick him to win, but I'm actually going to stick with JR. I think this is a very, very close matchup because of the good week that Rob already got. But I think JR is going to bounce back at the wide receiver 2 flex and IDP spot. Baker Mayfield taking on Atlanta could match Trevor Lawrence. Jalen Warren is not matching Travis Etienne. That's absolutely fine. But then when you start to look, Brandon Ayuk, Romeo Doubs, I love Brandon Ayuk. Devonta Smith is obviously better than Jahan Dotson. But then you have Jalen Waddle. Like I said, they don't really have their players in the right position for the full comparison. But the long and short is I like what JR has. And then TJ Watt versus Josh Allen could decide this all at the IDP position. Allen did absolutely nothing in that Thursday night game, whereas you have TJ Watt, who is capable of putting up 30 points pretty easily in this league, Dan.
JR has the better team. JR should win this game. I think Rob's going to get the win. I'm going to pick Rob. I think that teams just play down to Rob and his level. He's gotten pretty lucky with some matchups. He's gotten some close games. Ayuk has to go off in order for JR to win this game, in my opinion. So it's possible it could happen. I also watched the 49ers play the Browns last week and could tell you that, it might not happen. But so I think taking Rob, I think he gets the win.
There you go. So this is Lost in the Sauce, Mr. Steak. Yep. Nate, what do you got?
I'm going to pick the Mr. Steak side.
Okay.
It's tough. The Baker Mayfield one, yes, he could be right. He could go off, but I think that's just too much of a X factor there that could be, you're talking about negatives for your quarterbacks and all that. There's no guarantee there. And Warren, yes, he's outplaying Najee, but as your starting running back, and I've had Rashad White and got rid of him. And I think Johnson's due. I think he's going to take over the Bears this week. So just there's so many more X factors, and then he's already got the points of Etienne on the board.
Since I sent you that screenshot, I say he actually had to move Roshan Johnson out. Roshan Johnson is out this week. He had to throw Keontae Ingram into the lineup instead. So he still has a starting running back, just not Roshan Johnson. Because I agree, I am very big on Roschon Johnson taking over that backfield, but it's not going to happen this week.
Geez, that puts me on a nice edge then. Like that's that's like Roschon is him if he could have feasted this week. So
yes,
I'm going to switch.
Oh, making the change mid-sentence.
I didn't even see that. I've not looked at it in the last 12 hours and all that for Roschon.
I was going to say it was late last night. They announced him out when they officially announced Justin Fields out. They
concussion.
Yes, still in concussion protocol. Has not been able to get out yet.
Yeah, he was hoping to get to last week's game. That's crazy.
Yeah, mildly concerning.
Very careful, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. But I agree with you. I think he is primed to take over this backfield. I don't really care for Khalil Herbert, and I think he's way better than Deontay Foreman. So I think Roschon Johnson eventually, by the end of the season, is the Bears starting running back, but it's not going to be this week, unfortunately. And with
lost my source for me. That
as I say, made the change mid-sentence. Next up, very similar situation. This has been a weird week for matchups. It's a lot of playoff teams playing non-playoff teams, which could have implications in the draft lottery later. Grimy Savages with 4 wins taking on Porn Chub with 2 wins. Dan, go ahead and get us started on this one.
I'm just thinking.
Sorry.
Steve's going to win this one. Steve's going to win this one pretty easily. I don't like a lot of I don't trust Geno Smith. Josh Jacobs has been inconsistent. You're starting McKinnon at running back. You're getting pretty desperate. Calvin Ridley already got his normal 1.5 points or 1.25.
Yeah, that was rough.
So he's already got that out of the way. But no, I think Steve wins. He just has a better team. He's getting hot. He's getting ready to make his run.
Yeah, seems like he's probably due. I noted that this in one other game. We have the starter facing the backup, Isaiah Pacheco taking on Jerick McKinnon here. And Nate, you mentioned you're getting Isaiah Pacheco. I think this is an enormous week to land Isaiah Pacheco. The Chargers give up a ton of points to the running back. And yeah, I agree with you, Dan. I don't think Grimy Savages is going to have any problem here. I do think it could be a closer matchup if New England can shut down Josh Allen. I wanted to go in. I didn't have time. I wanted to go in and see how Josh Allen has done against New England in his career because we all love to think Bill Belichick is this great game planner. So I'd love to know if he has normally slowed Josh Allen down. Nate, as a Bills fan, you may know better than me here, but I'm definitely going to go with Steve Horvath, Grimy Savages in this matchup.
Yeah, it's sorry, it took me a while to find this one. I don't know. I've only got 7 things on the thing.
No, you're fine.
It took me a while. I was clicking through going, where is this one? So I'm a little bit behind, but yeah, already getting the 1.25 from Ridley. That's both of my matchups in my fantasy leagues, my main ones, both have Ridley as opposition. So I'm like, I was loving that, seeing the one out of 4 receptions he had. Geez, I was driving listening to that game. But I've got to go with Josh. Like I think that him against New England, I think he could. Yeah. This could be what's a cap for a quarterback in your league? Like a 30 to 40 point.
30 to 40 is enormous in our league. So we don't give a lot of points to yards. It's a very much touchdown focused and do not turn the ball over focused. But you do get bonuses if you cross 300 or 400 yards. I don't see Josh Allen doing that. I mean, 300 is definitely within, but I would say 30 to 40 is an enormous week for us.
I think just those first 3 decide it. Allen Robinson and Pacheco. I think that'll be
to give you an example. Against Miami this year, when Allen had 4 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, he still only scored 40 fantasy points in our league.
So Allen typically has 1 good game against New England and 1 bad game against New England.
Okay,
like a 35 and a 5, a 31 and an 8, a 25 and a 12. The last 3 years.
Interesting. So which one will it be? But we're all picking Horvath to win this game. Dan, I have you next. Very similar situation to the previous game. You are sitting with 4 wins. This is Dancing Squirrels versus Swallow My Simeon. So Dancing Squirrels sitting at 4 wins, Simeon sitting at 2 wins. Dan, I have you winning this matchup. What's interesting is I expected this maybe to be a blowout. I've obviously liked Simeon's team a lot during the season. He was one of my original playoff teams that I've since taken out. You guys do cancel each other out at a lot of positions. However, with DJ Moore going in without Justin Fields, I love Puka Nacua and Keenan Allen. He's a game onto himself. So no matter how much I like Zay Flowers, I'm going to pick Keenan Allen there every time. So you could say you guys cancel each other out at every position, but your advantage at wide receiver, which is something I've brought up multiple times, Dan, your advantage at wide receiver is going to be too much for him to overcome in this matchup. Go ahead, Dan.
So before the show started, I would have picked myself, but all this
Jesus
Jordan Love talk has convinced me that he's going to have an awful game, and I am putting no faith in him. So I'm going to go ahead and take Rob to get this win, just because Lamar Jackson could have a big game. And
I love the Detroit defense. A lot of people are like worried about the Detroit defense, worried about the Detroit Lions, a team that beat Kansas City. I am not worried about Detroit in this game at all.
Zay Flowers has been putting up points. If Lamar Jackson has a good game against them, pardon me, it's going to be tough to – my team is inconsistent, and we had a good week last week. I don't expect back-to-back good weeks. So
Olave's just been very mid for you. 15 targets. You got to love that, but just not doing a lot with it yet. So.
Derek Carr looks like a giant waste of money for the Saints, which is unfortunate. I thought him going there would be helpful, but I saw someone posted – Andy Dalton's career numbers next to Derek Carr's career numbers, and Derek Carr's Andy Dalton, and Andy Dalton looked terrible at the end of his career, and it looks like Derek Carr is going to follow in the Red Rifles' footsteps there.
There you go. And this was the other game I noted: Javonte Williams taking on Jaleel McLaughlin. So the starter facing the backup. What do you got here, Nate?
Well, that's what you're saying too with Carr coming over to the Saints. I know a lot of Saints fans and all that, and you'd think Derek Carr was Brady coming over. Like they were talking about, he was he never reached his full potential in the Raiders and all that. So he's going to just be a superstar now. He's going to take over this team, and they're talking Super Bowl and all that. And I'm just like, it's Derek Carr. Like, I'm sorry. There's a ceiling there.
Last year.
There's a ceiling there. Like, come on. But in this one, I think Dan takes it. Just like McLaughlin, like with Williams getting more and more reps, like. I can't see McLaughlin doing much at all anymore, which is good because I traded him. Algier, like more without Fields, like, but pretty much any player.
Very concerning.
So far. When we made 23 trades, I pretty much owned and traded most of the.
I was going to say, who haven't you traded?
I can't get Kelsey. The guy won't let me get Kelsey, and I can't get Tyreek Hill.
Okay,
I've bundled everything to get Tyreek Hill, and the guy will not move. And it's frustrating. But the Keenan Allen, I think he's the game changer here. He could be a 30+ pointer there, and that could be what will decide it. And DJ Moore not having Fields is quite big as well. He's not going to have one of those explosive games that he has had. So I think you've got it, Dan. Even if Jordan Love puts up negative. My high scoring week actually, I had what was the defense? Was it Washington that Justin Fields absolutely tore apart?
Yes. Yes. I also started Washington that week.
my high scoring week still, and I had a -5.
Yeah, I was going to say in standard scoring leagues, Washington was a -5. I remember that.
That was painful.
2 games left. It is our 3-3 teams taking on each other. I, of course, saved myself for last. So we're going to go Guardians versus Last Chance U. Guardians.
I just got to say that I actually played Fields that week against that defense.
Oh, so you started Fields against your own defense. Okay.
I hit my bet and kind of won.
Yeah. Well, and it made such sense. Like, I was really beaten up on myself for being in on the Washington defense that week, but it made such sense because Chicago coming into that game was giving up the most fantasy points to defenses and special teams. So you just assumed like Fields could maybe rush a couple in and still be a good play. But you didn't think Washington was just going to get obliterated.
I thought Washington would still eat. I thought they'd still get their sacks. I thought they'd still do something to not be negative, even if Fields did go off. But it was like, I think it was like a 35 points overall, though. So I'll take it between my defense and quarterback.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with Guardians and Last Chance U here. This one, putting it bluntly, not a whole lot to talk about. I think the Thursday night game decided this matchup already. Enormous week from Alvin Kamara. Enormous week from Foye Oluokun. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot here. I know Stevie's been riding high on Zach Moss going up against Cleveland for Guardians. I don't think it's going to be great, but 22 points out of Alvin Kamara, 29 points out of Foye Oluokun. I don't see a flip side on this for Guardians team where he's going to be able to come back from this one, Dan.
Oh, I agree. And here's the thing. like even if you take away those high scores that Phil already has, Kirk Cousins going against San Francisco, Zach Moss going against the Cleveland defense, Barkley going against the Washington. This is a terrible week for Steve. You talked earlier about breaking the high score or the difference score difference. This matchup could do it, considering Phil already has 50. I mean, I think this has just as good of a chance as being the biggest blowout of the season. Because I don't expect much out of Steve's team. I think Phil could have a huge week, so something to keep an eye on.
There you go, Nate. What do you got here?
Yeah, definitely. Last chance you.
Yeah.
I'll leave it last chance you.
Yeah, that's how I've handled it this entire time. So.
With the points on the board and Diggs, and like Hawkinson, for him to go, like Cousins has to at least do moderately. Okay, so maybe Hawkinson isn't as good this week, but still, I think he'll get enough.
I think Jacoby Myers is a widely underrated asset. I kind of made fun of Phil when he went out and traded for Adam Thielen and Jacoby Myers, and I would say I'm certainly in the wrong on that argument. So.
What's funny is these two teams traded for the Raiders receivers. Who would have thought Devontae Adams would have been the worst one to trade for, right, Steve?
I drafted mine and then dealt him after that first good week, so
yeah,
it was tough. But I'm like, I can cash in now. Who knows what the rest of the year is going to be like? This is going to be around his peak value, which I'd say it's still roughly the same. I don't think he's gone, from that after week one. I don't think he's gone into the stratosphere since then.
Nah, he hasn't blown up. Plus, he's had 1 or 2 weeks out with injury, but he has been very steady. I think at 1-2 games, I think he's actually beat Devontae Adams in targets. So,
and when you're trying to trade someone, people always look at their worst weeks.
Yes.
When you're buying on eBay, you always look at the people's negative reviews.
You don't care that they have 8,000 positive reviews.
Yeah, it's like, you look at that 1 week that he got 3 points. What happened there? Same like I tried with Kittle. People look at last week now and be like, oh, well, look at the week before.
Yeah, exactly. Look what he did. All right, guys, and we're going to finish it up with me, Part-Time Ninjas, taking on Waiver Danger. Dan, I'll let you get us started on my matchup.
I think you're going to win that. I'm going to take in you. I personally hope Terry beats you and you lose. But Mahomes typically owns the Chargers. Kelsey is going to have a big game against the Chargers. Obviously, you need McCaffrey. I don't think your team is going to survive without him. So, and I expect him to play. I expect him to be fine. He's not human. So I'm taking you. I think they're just going to be too much for Terry to overcome if they have their normal big weeks. Are you going to get a kicker? Or are you just going to let it go this week? No kicker.
Oh, no, I'm getting a kicker. I don't mind telling you guys what my plans are here. My guess is I need to get Deontay Johnson off of waiver or IR on Sunday. I'm hoping in this situation that Jeff Wilson stays on IR, but I think I saw he's already being listed as questionable. I think they just haven't taken him. So the long story short is I'm likely cutting Elijah Mitchell and Zach Evans and just moving on with my life and adding a kicker. I'm definitely getting a kicker. I need the win this week desperately. What do you got here, Nate?
Yeah, I was looking at I think Minnesota plays on the Monday night, and their kicker was just a good one to, I was going to do some sneaky stuff this week, but I made a few trades, but that was Greg Joseph. That was my backup plan, was that I could make all these deals in time to then pick him up for Monday Night Football if I needed him, because my opposition will be maxed out by Monday night. So it was a case of, at the time I was going to have to drop Tajay Spears in order to pick up a kicker.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
Really did not want to. I've dealt him now. He was in the trade with Checo. But yeah, definitely looking like a win for you there. Like McCaffrey is the biggest question mark, but he'll go. If he can play, he'll.
I'm just nervous about him. And the fact that it's Monday night, but you brought up an interesting point, and I'm probably going to screw myself, but like both Monday night kickers are available, so that's kind of what I was looking at too, Nate.
But yeah, just overall, like McCaffrey is a pretty big part of this. Like what are your options if he's out?
That would be not cutting Elijah Mitchell and playing Elijah Mitchell or Zach Evans.
You have to cut David Montgomery, huh?
I'd say Evans out of those two.
Yeah, I don't trust Elijah. I got very upset last week. I'll tell you a little waiver wire drama in our league. So So just so you're aware, if you haven't heard people bitch about it on the live stream, we do not put players on waivers at game time. We call it fastest fingers. That is changing next year. So don't get too used to it when you're in the league because it will be waivers starting next year. But right now, so I had cut Elijah Mitchell and nobody had signed him. McCaffrey got hurt. I go and sign Elijah Mitchell. And then I noticed that Jordan Mason is getting all the work and someone else went and got Jordan Mason. So I don't even have the right backup. I have just made mistakes upon mistakes this year.
That was like me at the after the week 1 waivers. There was what's his name, Kyron the Rams.
Yeah, Kyron Williams. Yeah,
he was sitting there still. No one had claimed him because everyone still thinks Akers. And then the running back for San Diego that did nothing when
Josh Kelly.
Yeah, I had a 50-50 choice and I made the wrong one, and that's haunted me. That could have I would have been untouchable with Kyron, and now I got him in that trade with Pacheco.
I love it. Well, I was gonna say, that's so you got Pacheco and Kyron Williams in the same trade.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
what'd you give up? I need to know this.
Yeah.
I gave up Derrick Henry, Tyjae Spears, and Rashee Rice.
I think that's a win for you.
I would have to have dropped one of them in order to fill my team this week. Yeah. So it was a case of and it probably would have been Rashee Rice, which I really did not want to do. Yeah. I think he has got a lot of potential this year. So I was sending out deals to everyone. You think like Tyjae Spears and Rashee Rice in a 12-team league, you'd think would be golden. But everyone knocked me back everywhere. Like, why would I want these junk players? That's why you need to get me in, because I'm in a league where people are like, why would I want Rashee Rice? Everywhere else, like people were clamoring. But then I dropped them to free agency, guaranteed that 5 people put waiver requests in
as quickly as possible.
Why not jump the queue and just send me something?
Yeah, well, with all of your trade talk, I guarantee you that 90% of the league who watches this show, well, everyone who watches the show is salivating to get you into the league, because that is exactly the kind of active management we want. All right.
But just quickly, the other night when Justin Fields looked like he was going to be out and I had no options and all that, 12-team league, I sent out 11 trades. I sent out a trade offer to every single person because I needed to do something. And I warned them. I said, because they seem to be getting annoyed and they complain and, bitch about, I'm just sick of getting these bad trade offers. I run them through calculators. I put them on forums just to get an idea that I'm not trying to rip people off and all that. And I just like sending a lot of offers because I like that movement. I like to, and it helps because you've got constant movement. Then you want to make a bigger trade. You not keep, like I had Jerry Jeudy stuck on my team for 4 weeks, and whatever reason, no one likes him in this league. So every time I'd put a trade in and he'd be in the end there, they'd reject it because not Jerry Jeudy again.
Much Jerry Jeudy. Yeah.
Well, if you send out a lot of bad trade offers, you'll fit right in with this league.
All right, Dan.
I actually look at what other people need. It's a crazy concept.
Yeah.
But like someone this week, I'm desperately trying to trim my roster down and pick up a defense. So someone offers me a 4 for 2. It's like,
yeah. Like I need less players, not more. I hate when that happens. All right, Dan, we have reached the who are your 6 playoff teams?
I got Darren, Steve, you, Steve, JR, and myself back in. I need wins now. I have a gauntlet weeks 11 through 14 are just all playoff teams. So I need to get some wins now in order to hold on to that spot, but I'm very questionable. If JR wasn't 5-1 with his current roster, I would probably drop him out.
I've been trying to find a way to keep this guy out, and I can't do it anymore.
Keeps winning. He just keeps winning.
Yep.
So I think him and I are in the bubble. I think the top 4 are pretty much in.
I have the exact same playoff teams as you. I find it interesting. We both excluded Phil, who is currently ranked 5, and have Steve getting in over him. I did note, Dan, that this is essentially these are our 5 playoff teams we picked at the beginning of the season, and then we both are admitting we were wrong about Darren. You've replaced Terry with Darren. I've replaced Rob P with Darren. So we have consistently got back to our 5 playoff teams, plus Darren, who needed all the respect in the world. And I agree. I have me, you, and Stevie on the bubble. I think JR, Horvath, and Darren are in pretty well. Nate, did you have an opinion on the playoffs?
Can't say I really had a chance to.
Okay, that's fine. Let's not worry about it. Let's jump to the game. I say
deep into it.
Yeah, like I said, you're dealing with screenshots, so let's not focus.
Just agree with us. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that works perfectly. All right, everybody's aware of the game. I've noticed nobody's really joining us live, but I don't think any of us are waking up at 8 a.m, so they'll watch later.
You don't have me there, see? Like I got to run both things here. I got to be in here, and I should be on my phone, being in the chat as well.
There you go. Exactly.
Steve has a new baby. He should be up right now, taking care of that baby, watching this, teaching the baby about some fantasy football and how bad he is.
I got 2 babies. And I'm here.
Oh, see. Well, no, he's saying the babies are why he should be watching. I won the game last week with 36 points. That's a pretty low number, actually.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, Josh Allen, Tyreek Hill took it down for me. I just barely beat Darren, who took Justin Fields and Mostert. Mostert went off. Fields did nothing. So I took the dub. I'm going to go first because I want to be the anti-Dan. And I am going to go with my guy, Patrick Mahomes, and Kenneth Walker as my picks this week. Dan, what do you got?
I am going Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown.
Jalen Hurts and A.J.B. going with the stack. What do you got, Nate?
I was going to say Kenneth Walker is a shock, but then you took him. You did him. So I don't want to do it.
I love him.
I'm going to go Diggs and Allen.
All right.
I think this is the week that he does his. This is the week he does his 41, and the other one will be the 5.
Well, there we go.
Typically, he has his worst game against New England the first time he plays them. We'll see. New England is terrible this year, so I don't think he's gonna have a bad game against New England.
Yeah, I don't think it's a standard New England year this year where no matter what they're like pizza. Even when they're bad, they're still good. This year they're just bad.
They're bad. They're Chuck E. Cheese
on the sidewalk for a month bad. Like there's no good in that pizza anymore.
It's Chuck E. Cheese slander.
It's the Chuck E. Cheese pizza for sure. Nate, this has been a pleasure. Offense meant to every guest we've had in the past. You have been the best guest on the Massillon Football League show by far. Thank you so much. Dan, parting words for our friends.
I love you guys, and let's go Tigers.
There you go. Nate, I know your parting words, Nate. I'll just let you point, and I'm just going to say, Terry, we've known each other since we were 6 years old. I watched you punch lunch monitors in the stomach, and I cannot wait to punch you in the stomach this week in fantasy football. Our quarterbacks are facing off. Patrick Mahomes is going to take it to Justin Herbert. Fuck you, Terry. You're going to lose.
We need this story.
I'll tell it in a second. Everybody have a great day.